Welcome to the Michael Blum Show, where we talk about things you don't want to talk about. We talk about sex. We talk about politics. We talk spirituality and substance abuse. Join us by calling 800-699-0980. Think, speak, and be heard. Here now is Michael Blum. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Blum Show. I'm thinking of changing the name of the show. Folks, let me know what you think. How about, rather than the Michael Blum Show, which is rather austere and is really just my name and all that, how about if instead we do it and we call it, let's see, we'll call it Tuesday Night with Mikey. I'm ripping off a famous author. There was a really good play that I saw many years ago, Tuesday Night with Maury. But if I'm the only one out there in the world that gets the reference, I guess it's not really worth it to do. I've been looking this week at, and I was my wife's Facebook account was hacked this week, along with most of the other people she knows on the universe that use that ridiculous platform. I use social media to go ahead and do these broadcasts and all, but I'm not a big fan of Twitter. I think it's for twits, and that's how they came up with the name. And Facebook used to be, people don't realize that. I remember my daughter waiting for her .edu address for a school because the only people who were on Facebook originally were kids and students. And now it's blown into this ridiculous thing that people use this social media stuff actually to go ahead and ruin people's lives sometimes. And the worst thing that's going on now is all of this hacking and cybersecurity issues that everyone is having, it seems. I had last week, I had to go ahead and give up a credit card because some people were trying to use it. And I feel I'm very, very careful with most of this stuff, so I don't really know what's going on. But in my search for information, we do have a guest who's going to be with us momentarily, who is actually a certified risk management specialist. So we're going to pick her brains about all sorts of stuff. But I found this video, and I thought it was just so disturbing. I wanted to play it because I like disturbing, comfortable people. So just check this out. Just check this out. It's quite amazing.
It's called spoofing. Telemarketers calling from a number that looks a lot like yours, same area code, and even the same first few digits, trying to get your personal information, promising free cruises and warranties. And now scammers are doing it too.
Criminals realize that you're more apt to answer your phone if they call from an area code that you're in. And even more crazy, they can actually make the call look like it's coming from somebody you already know.
They can actually mimic somebody's phone number now.
Absolutely. So, for example, I can call somebody and make it look like you're calling them.
You said you will be able to call my producer, Giovanna, who's actually just off camera right over there. Hi, Giovanna. You can call her from your phone,
yes,
posing as me.
Absolutely.
We aren't showing you how he does it, but seconds later.
There it is. It says Jeff Rossen work. It's your picture. This is literally what happens when you call me. I would see this and 100% think it was you.
That is crazy. And by the way, everybody, this is my phone.
Yeah.
We called from your phone, not mine.
Then he ramps it up, showing us what a real criminal would do, and calls my mom as me, again from his phone.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Mom, real quick, I need your Social Security number and fill out some beneficiary forms. Can you help me out real quick?
What?
I've got this beneficiary form. I just need to fill it out. What's your Social Security number real fast? Great. Thanks a lot, Mom. Love you.
And now you have it.
That's it. I've got a Social Security number.
Think it can't happen to you? Even the chairman of the FCC has been spoofed.
What is the FCC doing now to stop this, to protect me?
A few different things. Number one, we are empowering phone companies to block robocalls that appear to be spoofed with no legitimate purpose. Number two, we are taking aggressive action against robocallers. And number three, we're working with the industry to develop more technological solutions.
In the meantime, experts say apps like Mr. Number and Truecaller can help, alerting you to spoofed calls. But the best advice, never give personal information over the phone unless you made the call yourself.
That wasn't even from my phone. He was just posing as me.
You're kidding.
Because you never know who's on the other end. Jeff Rossen, NBC News, San Diego.
Hey, NBC News fan.
Wow. Well, isn't that interesting? That scared the crap out of me. And folks, by the way, we have a very, very beautiful person. If you're watching the stream right now on with us, I want to welcome Heather Wagenhals to the Michael Blum Show, or Tuesday Night with Mikey. I'll still play with that a little bit, and at least I'll be amused. I have to be amused somehow, and sometimes I'm the only one it seems can do it. But anyway, Heather, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on Tuesdays with Mikey.
All right. Did you get the reference, or is it,
Oh, yeah. With Lori. So I totally got it. Yeah.
All right. That's good. I meant to do a little bit of paperwork beforehand. The paper, nothing's done until the paper is done. If you want to follow the stream, feel free to do so. You could do it a whole bunch of different ways. I post these things after the fact when they're kind of all cleaned up on Vimeo. I'm streaming right now on Facebook.com/Blum Show, BLUMSHOW. I know it's original. And I'm also on Twitter, which is at Michael Blum Show. I'm also on Periscope, which is PSCP.TV for Periscope.TV/guess Michael Blum Show. So if you want to do that, you can do that. You can also hear the streams from my website, which is aptly called michaelblumshow.com, and you can pick up the streams there. There's a little tab on the top that says, listen now, and then you can pick a stream and listen to the show from there as well. Anyway, we do have Heather Wagenhals with us, and she is a certified theft risk management specialist, and we want to pick her brains a little bit because of all this crazy stuff that goes on. Here in Florida, Heather, we have some experience with lack of electricity due to hurricanes from time to time. And I imagine that's pretty similar to having a cyber attack and a serious threat, because everything stops pretty much.
We're experiencing that here over the last week and a half with the remnants of the hurricane storms, and we've been having flash flooding here in Arizona. So wow. There will be periods of time where we have no location, no cell phone access, no landline access, internet non-existent. And sometimes you might even be stranded based on where the water is accumulating. I know that we're kind of in this little flood zone area here where I live, and I've been challenged trying to get in and out of the house myself.
My fear is that people really don't know how serious things like that are. I'll give you, for instance, not with Irma, but with Wilma. This is a couple of hurricanes ago, maybe a decade ago. Finally, after about 3 or 4 days, I was able to get cell tower came up, and I was able to make phone calls using a cell phone. So immediately, you call up your insurance company, you say, look, you like to file a claim and all this. And they say, oh, it's very easy. If you go down to a post office, no, wait. There is no post office. I can't get out of my neighborhood, okay? There are trees down. Well, if you could just go ahead and maybe just fax us. No, you don't seem to understand. There's no electricity here for me to go ahead and fax. And people just seem to be so intensely out of the loop. I mean, just ridiculously out of the loop, that I really fear that things would really go awry and potentially violent after a while. We were lucky here in Florida because it happened to be very cool after that particular storm, and no one was really antsy about it. But maybe you can give us some insight. In the olden days, maybe I would have gone in the back and set a fire and took a blanket and done smoke signals, to try to go ahead and communicate. But obviously that's something I wouldn't do.
Does anybody even know Morse code, though? Would they be able to figure out what came through the smoke signal?
No, probably not. They'd probably go, maybe there's food going on. Let me see what's happening. I mean, at best.
The neighbor's having a barbecue. I'm hungry.
Right. At best. Oh, look, he's has to get rid of his food, so he's cooking it up, and which is actually what we do, what we have done here.
Well, and there are lots of challenges to living in our technologically advanced world, because we don't have anything available. We don't have our phone books anymore. We don't have pay records anymore. Everything is stored digitally. We have to have electricity to be able to operate many of these items. And so it creates a different world that we have to respond in versus the one that we were living in before the disaster. So what we have to do is take a few measured steps and really create a disaster preparedness plan for ourselves. So we have to think about the eventualities that may beset us. So what happens in a power outage? What happens if we're stranded? What happens if we can't communicate? We have to address all of these challenges individually and then be able to create a cohesive plan where they can overlap and make sure that we've got every area covered. Because the first thing that we want to do is be able to communicate.
Sure. I don't know necessarily how you would do that, other than maybe if you, a priori, the storm or the cyber attack, if you went and you downloaded, let's say, all of your information from your banks, so that you have a physical record. It's so weird, things travel in cycles. I think at some point in time, the banks are going to say, here's your bank book, and for the folks out there that don't know what that is, there was a time when there was no fax, there was no computer, and right, and everything was done with a little tiny passbook, and you went into the bank and they actually stamped it and told you how much money you had at that moment and all that other good stuff, which you now get online, except obviously, unless the bank was robbed, you're a hell of a lot safer with that old method than you are, it seems, with this new method.
Well, potentially. You just have to have a plan in place. Make sure that you're regularly and routinely downloading your bank statements. Make sure that you have all of that information in a format that you can use whether or not you have electricity and whether or not things are wet. So this is maybe, my brother was really great at this. He used to take and print things out because he was in the Army. And so he would have all of his strategies and plans already printed out in this super teeny tiny font, and he would have those cards laminated. So he would have those stored in a safe or somewhere safe that he could access those in the event of an emergency. And this was before we really had home computers and things. This is what he would do back in the day. And you have those laminated cards, even in the midst of flooding, you'll still be able to have account numbers, emergency phone numbers, policy numbers, all of that stuff. And with technology today, you can actually take actual photographs and have those printed out and then laminate those and keep those all stored in a secure location within your home where it's easily accessible. So maybe it's a carrying safe that you can just grab the whole safe and make it out the door as you're being evacuated. That's one way that you can do this. But technology is here with us, and so we can maximize using technology, accessing the latest information, because that's not going to go away. Once everything gets back up online, you'll still have that restored access to your account information. And as long as you keep your most recent record of it by going and downloading your statement or your most recent balance, just take a snapshot of it. It could be as simple as a screenshot on your phone and having battery backups fully charged and ready to go for your phone.
I know about this stuff. You know about this stuff. You know about physical records. You know about bank books. You know about checkbooks and ledgers and balancing things out. How do you think a millennial will handle that?
It depends on how prepared they are. It depends on if they grew up as typical millennials with helicopter parents that made sure that their world was safe and they didn't experience anything wrong or evil with the world. They were protected from having to go to funerals. They didn't have to bury their own dog. They were just told that it crossed the Rainbow Bridge and never had to learn how to handle any of life's catastrophic events. Are
they more of a target than us baby boomers? I'm not, and please, I'm not saying you are a baby boomer. Okay, you look beautiful, young, you're and look lovely. So I'm not meaning to insult you in any way or form.
No, and I wasn't. So you're
good. I'm glad.
But the challenge is that millennials and Gen Z have kind of grown up in bubbles. They had play dates. They didn't get to go out and explore the world. In my world, I had to be home when the street lights came on, and in Arizona in the summer, that's like 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to experience life. I would get hurt oftentimes, and I was so afraid of getting in trouble for doing something that got me hurt that I just would figure out how to fix myself. I can't tell you how many times I had to perform surgery to remove metal shards because I was climbing in construction sites that say nobody enter.
So you did crazy stuff too?
Oh yeah, crazy is my middle name for goodness sake.
I know. I did some stuff that I think of now, and I go, "What an idiot! Why would you do that?" I mean, I climbed up one of the stanchions for the Verrazano Bridge in Brooklyn, and jumped down onto the highway with cars coming, and because I saw a little tiny booth that led underneath to a catwalk. that stretched completely from Richmond in New York or Staten Island to Brooklyn. And I went out there just to go ahead and be in the Narrows and watch the boats go by. And then, but you know, I'm risking my life to do these moronic things. At least it
Sounds
didn't.
like a good idea.
Yeah, but it didn't affect my pocketbook. It didn't affect me that way. It may have affected me, you know, physically if things didn't go the way that they did. But today,
You had to, you know, that involved critical thinking. You had to figure out, okay, how do I get down there? And then what happens if I don't make it safely?
right, and you know, the timing is right because you don't want to land on the highway.
Critical.
You don't want to land on the highway as a car is coming at you. So there's some timing involved with it and all of that. But
Yeah, I mean, we focused this generation on passing, you know, these tests. So it was about rote memorization. It wasn't about critical thinking.
you know,
I mean, think about the whole generation that learned the see-say learning method to read.
well, right now I'm not sure if they're teaching phonics. I know they don't do cursive anymore. American history has kind of become nothing. People don't write notes anymore. You know, it's different. But for me, social media was called outside.
Yeah, that
You
was
know, you know, that was it. You went outside. That was it. You walked.
our version of texting was writing a note and folding it in a cool little triangle and passing it to your friend.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was completely different. We had to actually deal with and talk to people. Now, and I got to tell you, I love technology when it works well. But recently, it's been just a big pain in the ass. I ordered parking.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it in your intro when you were talking about Facebook. 50 million people were made vulnerable, and then another 40 million, as a precaution, were shut off and locked out of their accounts and had to reestablish connections with their accounts. You know, so 90 million people were affected by this vulnerability. And think about all of the people, and this is going to be a staggering number, that are still vulnerable because all they did was re-log in. Every third-party app that they used Facebook as their login, now those folks, they have still those vulnerabilities out there. So even if they change their password, if their encryption key was made available and somebody was able to get that from the vulnerability in Facebook, they still have access to all those other connected accounts.
Yeah,
That's a big problem for people. That's a security risk.
Yes, it is. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket, and someone steals the basket, and then you're done. You know, I never use Facebook for anything other than to stream. I'm not on it. I don't talk to people on it. I don't do anything with it. And at the beginning, you know, I thought, well, you know, maybe that's why I'm not getting as many hits. Maybe I should be posting an article every day. Maybe that's why I can get people more involved with the show. But I can't stand it. To be quite honest, you know, I'll cut off my nose to spite my face if I really don't like it. And I got to tell you, on the Michael Blum Show Facebook page, I get all sorts of people there, all sorts of people there. I mean, from people that are obviously, in my opinion, deranged, to people who can't spell or know English, or I mean, that, you know, it's just to me a waste of time. And I don't know if you can, but at least if it's just Facebook and you keep your own Facebook email and you don't associate anything with it, at least I think you're better off that way, because otherwise, as you said, you're just going to get screwed. Why on earth would someone rely on Facebook, of all things, to go ahead and provide them with their logins and their security? I mean, to me, it's just foolish.
Well, it's not about Facebook only, because you can use Twitter, you can use Google. There's quite a few that you can use as your login as. And it actually doesn't have anything to do with it being the particular social media service. It has to do with what I talk about on my TV show, Unlock Your Wealth Today, that can be found at unlockyourwealthtoday.com. And it's our natural tendency to be driven toward the novel, and we want to avoid pain. And let me tell you, how many times do you like having to type in your full show name at wherever your email address provider is, .com, .net, .whatever, and then you have to type in your sophisticated password, and if you were crafting your passwords correctly, it's 20 characters minimum, and it has a minimum of 2 capital letters, 2 numerals, and 2 symbols, and it doesn't really spell anything, so you can have at least 10,000 years of cracked protection against that. And at Heather Wagenhals, with my first and last name together, it makes sense that people would say, oh, I could type in Heather Wagenhals at my email address.com and then my 20-character password at every website and then have a unique password at every website. Or for the low, low price of click here, I can log in with Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever social media service is providing this third-party access. And so my brain, my natural drive towards pleasure and away from pain says, click here, because that's an awful lot of pain. That's an investment of time, and I have to have instant gratification right now. And that's why it happens. No other reason. It's just
it's
desire to have convenience.
That's true. Now, I've never really. I'm very, very careful with my passwords and things like that. In terms of computer hacking and things of such nature, I don't believe I've been hacked. Other than it's strange to me that, like, I got a call from American Express last week telling me, well, did you make this purchase? Did you make that purchase? And I said no, and they closed my account and emailed me a new card. It is very, very tempting. I know what you mean, because you don't want, as these become more sophisticated and some websites now want you to change your password every now and then, you go nuts. Well, which one did I do? Well, to me, if I did it 10 years ago, I probably used that one. And, my newer one with the characters and all that stuff makes sense only to
keep track of it all.
How do you keep track? So you get a master password program, which if someone finds that, you're royally screwed, because all they need is that one password, and now they have access to absolutely anything and everything on your computer. It's pretty crazy. Do you have recommendations for how to handle email effectively? I mean, to protect yourself at least through email?
Well, absolutely. So you can change your security settings on your email. You could put them on the highest setting. It'll filter out everything where you have to approve email addresses in order to send you stuff. The challenge is if you do online banking or do paperless statements with different types of account providers, then you're going to have to make sure that you approve each and every one of those. So you're going to have to regularly check your spam folders until you find out and be able to approve or whitelist, as they call it, the email addresses that you would like to receive information from. But your bigger challenges are the unsolicited ones that you don't realize aren't from the people you expect them to be from, because they're spoofing email names and addresses or stuff that looks familiar from you. So you just mentioned American Express. So if I wanted to be crafty, I could go create an American Express email address, and I make it slightly different, but it looks mostly like it's from American Express. And because I'm an American Express customer, I could create a template for this email that I want to send you that's going to have the same look and feel. And I'm going to type all of this nonsense in here that I want. I'm going to put some genuine links to the American Express website, but I'm going to tell you, use this special link to take and tell me if you have had fraudulent activity in your account. Maybe I'm sending you a fraud alert saying, please click here and type in your account information and let me know if you have used your card and what activity you've had the last, like 5 days or something like that. So you click on this link, you go to the website, it looks like American Express. If you click on any of the other buttons other than this form that it just took you to directly, they'll take you to the actual American Express website. But when you fill out this form, it's asking you account number, address, mother's big name, or whatever your social security or your security question was. It's late in the evening, forgive me.
That's okay.
And then you type in the places that you spent money at. So now I know where you regularly shop. So I can go create with this account number you just gave me. All I did was trick you out of this information. I didn't steal it at all. You actually gave it to me.
What's really weird is that I've actually had legitimate phone calls, like from a bank. Like Bank of America called me up. I happen to have a credit card or two with them. And they said, hi, we want to just go ahead and verify all of the information and stuff like this. And I said to them, are you nuts? Are you kidding me? You're calling me from the bank? She says, well, it's a legitimate number. You can call us back. I said, I certainly will. And then I would hang up and you call the 800 number on the back of the card. And they say, well, yeah, that was us. That was us calling, actually. So it was a legitimate call. I guess that's the other end of the spectrum. So here you have on the the people that are supposed to be protecting you, they don't know what's going on either. You know, I mean, I don't know if you heard that the video that I played where the guy is actually able to make it look like someone else is calling your phone.
I could do that right now. I could do that right now and make you think that I'm anyone, you know, and that's the challenge, you know. A few years back, Verizon, there was this Verizon 28 scam. And what they would do is they had the actual phone number from Verizon. So if you hit the number and called it back on your caller ID because you didn't recognize it, it would actually be the one to Verizon. Now, if you would ask them and go to a customer service person and wonder why they called, they would say they didn't call. But then the next time you actually did answer, because now you recognize the number, now you saved it in your phone, and it's going to tell you, oh, hey, you know what? We're offering you this rebate for being a loyal customer. And I said, really, that's great because I'm with Sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And so they hung right up on me.
My favorite.
There was another.
I was going to say my favorite one I had at my office actually when I was in Fort Lauderdale, maybe 2-3 years ago. Scared. We got a phone call and the guy says, "Hi, I'm from Florida Power and Light, and we've noticed here you haven't paid your bill, and we want to take the information now. We're going to cut your electricity off." And the staff came to me going crazy, and I said, "I paid my bill. This is nonsense." And they gave me the phone number, and I called the guy back, and and my wife says, "Why do you do this? It's so stupid." And I argued with the guy. I said, "You're a goddamn thief. I can't stand people like that. You." And he said, he threatened my life. "Oh, I know where you are. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to go ahead and beat the crap out of you." I said, "Oh, it's fine. I carry, and I'm pretty good, so I'll just blow your head off." You know, and
Exactly.
you know, and my wife says, "Why would you get involved with that?"
Here.
You know, it's the West. Well, you're in Arizona. I don't know what
Heckler and Koch actually is my security team.
Who is?
Heckler and Koch.
Heckler and Koch.
I'm an HK girl. Yes.
Okay.
I carry the VP9, so.
All right.
A judge. I also have a judge too, in case I need a revolver.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
You never know.
Got that.
I'm in love with my little Walther 22. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, well, it's like a pea shooter, you know, but it can kill you. It's similar, but not so much. But I'm always amazed at what's going on. Now, there was a news scam. I'm going to see if I can play this video with you. Let me just see where we are, and I'm going to pop this up and see what we can do here. Let me get this started.
It's National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we've put together a quick and simple list to help protect yourself online and off. This is Digital Security Life Hacks. Let's dive in. Do you use your main email address to sign up for everything? This can lead to tons of spam and put your security at risk. Instead, have 2 different email addresses, one for very important accounts such as your online banking, and another for social networks. Even better, if you only access a site once or twice, try using a disposable email such as 10minutemail.com. All of these things will help you never have to worry about your accounts being compromised again. Want to surf the web anonymously? You can use your browser's incognito mode for starters, but if you want to take it to the next level and go completely untraceable, try using Tor. You can grab it at torproject.org and install it in minutes. Tor sends your traffic through virtual tunnels around the world to get you anonymous and secure. Do you buy a lot of stuff online? Never opt in to store your credit card information on the server itself. You never know if the company's server will be compromised or who might have access to that data. So spend an extra bit of time when you order something to protect yourself. When using a public internet connection at a cafe, school, or anywhere really, always select the public network option to make sure you are not accidentally sharing all your private files with the rest of the users. Getting into the habit of this can save you a huge headache in the future. When setting up common security questions on many websites, you often might get asked what your favorite pet name is. Using the real names can be one of the easiest ways for a hacker to gain control of your accounts. Put in a word that only you know, and your account will be that much safer. Share carefully on your social media accounts. While it is fun to tell your friends and family about what you're up to, make sure your privacy settings are set in a way so that not just anyone can see where you've checked in or when you might be leaving your house. Following these rules of thumb will give you privacy while still keeping in touch. And finally, your home network. In some cases, just password protecting your Wi-Fi isn't enough. Try turning on MAC filtering in your router's advanced settings page. This will let you give access only to the machines you have approved, whether they have the password or not, making your network that much more secure. We would love to hear your security tips and tricks in the comments below. Let us know what little things you do to stay secure online, and if you want more life hacks like this, check out intel.com/lifehacks. We'll see you next time.
Pretty crazy stuff, you know.
That was great advice. That was really great advice. And some other things that I also do on like the home networking for the wireless, I don't even broadcast the SSID. There's no reason why it needs to be broadcast if you have all of your MAC addresses registered for all your devices. And it's real simple. The next time you get a new phone or a new tablet or computer, all you need to do is capture that information on this one, go to one of your existing logins. And now my newest network that I just built, as a matter of fact, yesterday, all I have to do is I have an app on my phone that I can go in and just tweak it right there on my phone from anywhere in the world. So if I am compromised and I'm traveling, I can lock down my home network from somewhere else in the world.
You know, you're developing your own networks. You're here, you're a cyber, you're a certified identity theft management, a risk management person. You are basically a woman for all times, it seems. So
I have been called a Renaissance woman with my many talents, yes.
yeah, so how did you get started in this? I can't imagine you being like in 4th grade or something going, you know, I'm going to be a certified identity theft risk management person when I get older. How'd you get involved with all this?
Well, so it's an interesting story. I was one of those smarty pants kids that was always in trouble. So they would take me out of my class and they would take me to these gifted classes. And in the 4th grade, I got to program on an IBM PET computer. I don't know if you remember those. The computer was this big and the screen was this big. And you know, it was green with light green writing on it. And so I learned how to program computers way back then before there were all of these operating systems. Now, as I aged, I started to become a victim of identity theft. When I was 19, I got this letter from the IRS saying that I owed taxes. And I said, for what? Being a cheerleader in high school? And it was like, oh, by the way, you were in Pennsylvania at the time. And I said, look, I was born and raised here in Arizona. I don't know what you're talking about, right? And so as the cocky 19-year-old that I was, I just went, shh, 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 threw that away. Because they said, refile your taxes. And I said, how can I refile if I never filed? So I just disregarded it. And then by the time I was 22, well, Uncle Sam decided to freeze my bank account. And, you know, the bank kept letting me deposit money in the bank, you know, and I was working in a bar when I was trying to go to college. And I'm depositing money in the bank. And the bank never told me that my account was frozen. They kept letting me put money in every day.
Sure. Putting in is easy.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Coming out is tough. Yeah. Getting money out.
Right. And I didn't know that my account was frozen until they showed up at my work to repo my vehicle because all of the checks I was writing were bouncing. But my checks were going to my mother's address because, oh, she was using my social security number too. And that's when I first discovered identity theft. And, you know, the reason why identity theft occurs among family members is because who wants to send their mother to prison? I mean, there weren't even real big laws like there are now back then for that sort of stuff. I mean,
sure.
Fraud, yeah, but you had to press charges. Yeah, I mean, so it just started from there. And then some girl where I used to work when I was in California, I went to school there for a year. I worked at this one nightclub, and you had to sign in with your social security number, and everybody signed in on the same page, your social security number, your driver's license. And so I did what everybody else did, right? Well, some girl stole my information, got a new picture at DMV for my license, said they lost it, managed to bounce a bunch of checks, managed to get a bunch of speeding tickets she never paid for. And I had to get dispensation from the courts to travel to California because there was a warrant out for my arrest. So I could go clear this up and prove that I hadn't lived there anymore when these things were occurring.
That's so crazy.
Really awful.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
You know, today, I'm always surprised too, because believe it or not, today I got an email from someone very, very important in Nigeria. And
I hope that they didn't send you my inheritance.
well, they wanted to send me about $20 million. And
Mine, I already sent my info over. You better not take my money.
yeah, so, you know, it's funny that a lot of that crap, you know, still goes on and still happens. I'm surprised that people still fall for it, but I guess they do. You know, one of the rules of thumb I came up with basically was that I will never give to you any information whatsoever about anything about me or my family or my life unless I have propagated the call, the initial call. Mm-hmm. So if I call the bank up and they say, well, what's your social security number? I would give it to them. If the bank called me up and asked, they can go pound sand. Nothing's going to happen, you know.
Yes, but okay, let's go back to what we were talking about before with that first news story that you ran where the guy was spoofing the phone numbers.
Uh-huh.
You know what is just as valuable as your social security number these days? It's your phone number, your mobile phone number. And if I spoof your mobile phone number, I can call your creditors and it's going to automatically recognize me as you. And if I've trolled your Facebook page, I might know that your dog's name is Fluffy. I might know that your maternal grandmother just celebrated her 97th birthday, and now I have your mother's maiden name.
It's crazy.
People put so much out, and they do it because they don't think of it as this, you know, universe is a big, bad, scary place. You know, millennials live in this kind of protected bubble, like, you know, nothing can happen to me. Their parents made them safe. They never had to deal with tragedy, protecting themselves, adversity. They were sheltered from that. And so they think that this world is this wonderful place because all my friends post happy faces and all these motivational quotes and their lives are fabulous, even though I don't have a job. I got $100,000 in student loan debt for a degree that I can't use, and I can't get a job better than working at a local, you know, coffee shop as a barista. And but I'm going to pretend like my life's still great too, because everybody else is pretending that their lives are great.
You know,
and
how I look.
Meanwhile, I just stole all of your private data, and now I can hack into your account.
That scared the crap out of me, by the way, when I first saw that video, when I was kind of just searching around, that they can just call and it's you. That's amazing. But, you know, I kind of look at it is that I love computers. I was always involved with computers. I used to know machine language that you would use and punch into cards. And
the binary numbers and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I had a friend who was a real whiz with that in high school. So I used to go ahead and he developed a program.
BASIC and Fortran and COBOL. Those are the languages I learned.
Yeah.
I learned a little DOS.
I like DOS. I thought DOS was really cool. But I kind of look at
HTML is real similar if you ever do any website stuff.
Right, the HTML.
HTML is similar command.
Yeah, the markup language, pretty easy. But how I look at it nowadays is I look at the internet and all of this cyber stuff as a jungle. And the jungle is beautiful. The jungle is gorgeous, it's lush, it's plants, life is profound in it. But if you don't know how to handle yourself in the jungle, you're going to die.
Well, exactly. You have to be tactically aware. It goes back to preparedness each and every time. You know, we must be physically aware of our surroundings. You know, one of the things that I took in the 90s was jujitsu, you know, because I figured, you know what, I'm pretty tall. I carry myself very confidently. So the likelihood of me just being mugged is probably pretty low. But the likelihood of maybe a sexual assault, that's very likely. And so I picked jujitsu specifically because it's freestyle ground fighting. And that's where I'm going to need to go, is to the ground. And I need to be able to fight there. And so people are like, why would you take that? Do you want to be a cage fighter? And I'm like, no, but I need to be able to defend myself.
Sure. I mean,
made sense to me.
Yeah, I took Taekwondo, karate when I was younger. And after many, many years, I was actually able to catapult my belt level to yellow. So,
But you did say it was tough. I made it to blue, and I thought that was quite,
so I'm very happy. I'm very happy for my Glocks and my, Walthers and all of that stuff. I'm not the strongest of dudes around. I'm not a teeny guy, but I think that the weaponry is just a big leveler between people.
Yeah, my first father-in-law says, I don't need karate, I have gun get you.
That's right, gun get you. Or American karate, I could, I'm from Brooklyn, so I pick up a garbage pail and smash you on the head and then run. I mean, that's kind of,
there you go.
That's
there you
kind
go.
of how it went. I was listening to a radio show about a week or so ago, and an ad came on for something called title protection.
Title protection?
They said that it's very easy for someone, if they get your information, so go ahead, file forms with the state, and claim that your house now, and they still use your name and everything and the address, but basically they now own the title to your house. And what they do then is they go ahead and they enter into whatever agreements in your name, and the money is all that's used as collateral for whatever it is they want or that they withdraw is all against your house. And you don't know about it until someone sends you a bill. And,
that's curious.
The company
so how does this title protection work?
I don't know.
I'm in real estate, so this is kind of a new thing to me.
Yeah, it's called Title Lock, which is similar, I guess, to LifeLock. But basically what they're supposed to do is they secure the title in your house and make sure that nothing has ever changed without you being notified about it, I believe. How they do it or what the background is to it, I don't know. And you start to get, or at least I do.
It's public information.
There's who? I'm sorry?
It's public information, so to be able to find what your ownership records are when it comes to real property is fairly simple. Just look it up.
Yeah.
Whatever the governing body is that registers it. Mostly here in Arizona, it's a county registration. But how do they transfer the title without your signature?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they forge it, or they don't know it, or whatever, and people aren't looking. Because this is, and it's so weird.
But that's what title insurance is for. Why would you need title lock? That's a curious thing. Now I'm going to have to do some research on it. Now I got another story to write.
Because for all I know, this could be a company that's a sham company that's just taking airtime on the radio to go ahead and promote themselves.
I mean, in the 90s, they here in Arizona, if you're a primary, if it's your primary resident, you can't lose your property to death. We don't have to homestead. But there was a company in the 90s going around making people all freaked out that, oh my gosh, you could lose your home to excessive debt. And so they would charge you and it was nominal. I think it was $25 to homestead your property. But you didn't need to do that in the state of Arizona. And if you knew the laws of the state of Arizona, and it was a good little sham because it was just enough money to make it worth their while. $25 a pop, so every 4 people, that's $100, right?
Sure.
And $25 isn't, in the 90s, $25 still bought quite a bit, but it wasn't anything that you were going to sweat. $20 or $25, you thought you were buying peace of mind.
Yeah. Now, I got to tell you that I looked up whether it's true that people can steal your title, and there was a document from the FBI.gov that said, yeah, they said that the cases are very
possible,
very rare and very remote, but it's possible.
Fraudulent, or it had to be forged. And then again, that's why buy or acquire property, you have title insurance to insure against those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. When you buy a piece of property, you should always do a title search, because you don't want somebody coming back saying 100 years ago, your grandpappy played my grandpappy in a card game, and my grandpappy lost, but it's because your grandpappy cheated.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
I want that family property back. And that's what title insurance insures against or protects against. So it'll either pay to go away or it'll pay you to go find another piece of property. That's why I'm thinking that this is something superfluous that they're doing, that it's a scam.
Yeah, it very well could be.
Or at best, it's misleading.
Yeah. So anyway, it's called Title Lock, and you can check it out. Let me know what you find.
I'm going to write this down.
All right, you do that.
Right now.
I take notes too, so if I look like I'm down here, it's because I want to remember a whole bunch of things as I speak to you. I'm curious, since we're talking about Title Lock, I am a member of LifeLock, and I was curious what you felt about that.
Well, it's funny that you asked that. You know, I actually I have a different company that actually sponsors my show. But with LifeLock, the problem with LifeLock is it's reactionary. Okay, it says, okay, guess what? Somebody used your credit. Well, it's already happened. So thanks for the heads up, but again, it's already happened. What you need to do is freeze your credit. And now we just had a new law that was put into effect that says, guess what? They have to freeze and unfreeze your credit for free now. There's no charge. They used to charge, and it was a nominal fee of $5 to $7, but now blanket across the board. It's been changed federally, and that you can freeze and unfreeze your credit without penalty. And that's what you should be doing. It serves two purposes, actually, also. One, it other people from using your credit, and it creates just enough of an inconvenience so you aren't spontaneously applying for impulse credit purchases. Like when you go to the register and, have you applied for a red card today? You could save 10%. And you're like, what? And now you charge on this, you save 10%, and then you forget to pay the bill, and now you got your credit ding.
That's crazy stuff. You know, it's amazing how creative people are when they want to rip you off. I mean, you know, it's like an ongoing, continual thing. You know, it's just a very, very odd.
You would just wonder, like, if they applied themselves and that much ingenuity to legal ventures, how successful could they possibly be? And they wouldn't have to be looking over their shoulder. Oh my gosh, are the cops out?
Yeah, well, they have to kind of, I guess, go the other way, you know. It's like someone who was a prosecutor for the state now works as a defense attorney against the company they worked with. You know, you have to go ahead at some point in time and just maybe switch it up. But you're right. It's amazing how much energy people put into ripping you off. And like you said, sometimes maybe it's just not worth it, but I guess it must be because there are many, many, many people who are doing it.
And the challenge is that there are laws in place, but you know, when you deal with other countries, yes, they may that exist on the book, but are they enforcing them? And if they are, to what degree? Is it consistent across the board, or are they like enforcing these little people, but because of the general nature of the economy and the other nefarious entities, maybe officials are looking the other way, you know, maybe money moves around a little too fast to track, or, you know,
yeah, you
questionable.
Never know who's getting a piece of it, do you?
Exactly.
You never do. Want to watch another video with me?
Okay, I'm up for it.
All right, let's go ahead and do that.
We told you earlier this week the FBI is warning banks to be on guard against cyber attacks at ATMs. The agency says a global scam is in the works to steal millions of dollars from customer bank accounts. As CBN's national security correspondent reports, the best time to strike is over a holiday weekend like Labor Day, when no one knows what's happening. Here's Eric Rosales.
Federal agents tell CBN News these crooks armed with nothing more than a computer linked up to a fake bank card are walking up to these ATMs, putting it inside, and then infecting the units with malware. After putting in a passcode, they're able to wipe out fraud controls, such as cash limits, allowing them to walk away with all the money that's inside the ATM. The FBI alerted international banks that criminals are plotting a coordinated global cyber attack on cash machines in the next few days. Cyber hack experts say the attack is imminent.
So they have all of these card numbers and potentially PIN numbers that go with that. So what they do is they clone a bunch of these and then they wait for a weekend. Guess what's coming up? Labor Day, Monday, September 3rd. So they've got Saturday, they've got Sunday, they've got Monday.
3 days of theft, allowing them to steal millions of dollars. It was just last year. $2.4 million was stolen from accounts at the Virginia-based National Bank of Blacksburg in 2 separate ATM cash-outs. The FBI is urging banks to review their security, such as implementing stronger password requirements and updating software. Most bank accounts are insured, but customers still need to know the maximum protection. Security experts say it's important to monitor accounts regularly by going online or at least checking monthly statements. The sooner you report suspicious behavior, the more likely you are to get at least some of your money back.
If you go online and have it online, you can check more regularly. But at least in my experience, looking at them monthly, I can still contest them.
The FBI also advises consumers to examine any ATM carefully before using it and look for card readers or even cameras. Because these crooks have to physically hack the ATM and wait for all the money to be dispensed, that takes a lot of time. Agents are advising the public, if you see that happening, to immediately call police. Eric Rosales, CBN News.
More crazy stuff. It kind of makes me feel that kind of hopeless in a way, because if they can hack these machines and just empty them, I mean, at least it's not affecting my account personally, but you probably...
It does affect those
right.
It creates higher costs.
Yeah, so it does affect indirectly something. And that was weird to me. He said that the guy did $2.4 million over 2 cash outs. How much money is in one of those machines? And they have $1 million in each. You know, I mean,
you got to wonder how many 20s are in there, because they only come out 20 at a time.
You know, so that's weird to me. The guy says 2.4 million and 2 cash outs. So that's pretty lucrative.
It has to be coordinated attacks. You have to have multiple people involved, and you know, and I love watching crime shows. I love reading all kinds of, you know, assassin and spy novels. And I just think about like some of the Ocean's 11 movies. I mean, every person you bring in to your little thief ring, you've got yet another vulnerability. You've got somebody that can squeal, somebody that doesn't perform. So, you know, it doesn't make sense to have to use so many people. But if you want to do a theft on a grand scale, you can't do it alone. You're going to have to figure out a way to get it done. And you're going to have to do it that way. It brought up something interesting, and it talked about the ATMs. You know, I would only use an ATM as an individual if you really need to access cash where they are located inside a bank, where you actually have to walk in. It's not on the street. I would not use debit cards on ATMs. I would not use them anywhere on gas pumps. And I would never, ever make a purchase on a debit card. So many financial gurus and personal finance so-called experts say, oh, use your debit cards, cut up your credit cards, but all your consumer protections are in credit. It's foolish to do it any other way. And for a couple of reasons. The first thing, your money is gone. You only have 24 to 48 hours to start disputing it. Well, what if you don't check your bank balance for a week? You're going to be liable for a portion of that debt. The beautiful thing about using credit cards is, number one, no cash has left your pocket. And number two, if you don't owe that transaction, you can dispute it, and legally you do not have to pay until the bank proves that you spent the money. Sure.
And I had a problem with a debit card. I used to use a debit card from time to time for my business. And I noticed a whole bunch of charges that just weren't from me. So I closed the debit card, and it amounted to about maybe $1,800 in charges from various different sources from all over the place.
That's a lot.
And it was after a few days. So I called up the bank and I gave them the information. And you know what the bank did for me? They did nothing. I was able to get back all my money by finding these people, explaining to them what happened. And all of them gave me my money back, except for one corporation. Corporation's called Google. Google is the name of the corporation. Okay. Yes. I called them on 3 occasions.
They have very rigid terms of service.
Yeah. So I called them 3 times, and someone was supposed to get back to me that never did. And since the total amount there was less than $50, it wasn't just worth my time anymore. But I've learned the hard way from what you just said is that basically when I went in, I told the banks I recouped this money, and they said, wow, you did a good job. You know, so they're not going to help you.
Well, exactly, because, you know, it's not their money to chase. And what people need to realize is you get one transaction that's off. So let's say you're a person that is on a tight budget. Everything that comes in is allocated and going back out. Let's say you're a hyper-vigilant person. You've got everything set up on bill pay, right? It only takes one errant $5 or $10 transaction that somebody processes on your account to throw everything out of whack. Because what happens is they process the largest payment first. So let's say you have $30 in your account, right? Your paycheck hasn't hit yet. All right. And a $50 transaction comes through because somebody ate away 5, 10, whatever, and you don't have the $50 to make that big transaction go through. So it rejects that. And now it charges you $30 for an overdraft fee. So now your $30 is gone too. All right. So your 50 didn't get paid. So you still owe that guy the 50. Now you're down 30 and you have a zero balance. And the coffee you just bought this morning for $5, now you still owe that, but it doesn't get paid. And now you get another $30 charge, and now you're negative money.
Yeah, it gets nuts. Sometimes I don't know whose side the banks are on, but I've yet to really find a good bank to deal with that's kind of like that. You know, that really would really takes care of their business and has you.
And I'm not happy with my bank, but I've been there 25 years. I'm afraid to go somewhere else because it's the devil I know versus the devil I don't know. Do I want to have a negative experience somewhere else and lose even more money, or do I just want to say, okay, I know how these guys play the game? Yeah,
and I had some really big issues. This was fraudulent to me too, and I'm not going to name names, so I won't mention Wells Fargo, but
we probably shouldn't know that.
But I had 2 mortgages out on my building in Fort Lauderdale at one time, and they kept on missing. One payment would come late, and I would always get like a surcharge, like you said, an extra $20, $25, $30. So I went into the bank, and I said, I don't want to get all of these charges. And they said to me, well, if you open up a checking account, then we can kind of work things out so that you won't get any charges. So I said, fine. The first thing that the bank assistant did was they set up the debits, because I knew when they were supposed to drop. They set up the debits so that when they would drop, I would avoid all charges anyway. And I set up this new account because they said that would be the key to it. And as I'm setting up the account, they said to me, we're going to give you a credit card with the account. I said, I don't want a credit card with the account. They said, well, it comes with the account. So I said, well, all right.
Okay.
As it turns out, the bank screwed up, and I still was getting charged all of these extra charges. But guess where the charges appeared? On the credit card.
On the new account?
On the credit card from the new account. And so I would get statements.
So now you're paying interest on the fees that you charged inappropriately?
So now I would take the credit card, statement would come in. I wouldn't even look at it. I'd rip it up and throw it away because I never used the card. I never even wanted the card.
Why would you?
You know, so after someone finally called me up, I said, what are you talking about? And when I went into Wells Fargo to remedy the situation, they said, well, our credit division is not our bank. There's nothing we can do to help you. So I said, oh, really? Okay, then let me close every single account I have with you. And at the time, it was like 5 accounts with them. And a year and a half later, they were sued from the Federal Trade Commission, I think, for doing just that. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of theirs either. My brother and I were prohibited from opening checking accounts. We got stuck on check systems because our mother had this brilliant idea that she would add mine and my brother's security number every time she opened up a checking account, and she was a routine check bouncer. And even though it was only her that ever wrote checks on this account, she forged our names on the signer card. That I said, that's not even my signature. I said, why do I have to pay this balance? You know, my brother had security clearances with the military. His career was in jeopardy because our mother was a check bouncer.
Sounds like mom gave you a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah. You know, it's difficult when you're raised by an undiagnosed mentally ill person, and, you know, she never was able to get help. And so that was an unfortunate thing. But yes, you know, my brother and I did learn quite a bit about how to protect ourselves and defend ourselves in today's world because, you know, we were essentially, you know, the enemy was within.
Sure. And you know, moms, your mom has some knowledge of that. I mean, both my parents, thank God, are alive. My mother's 87 years old, and technology is something that is like amazing to her. She doesn't know how to handle anything for the most part. doesn't know how to have a computer, doesn't know how to do email, doesn't know how to do anything, doesn't know how to get an Uber, does nothing. I mean, zero. I was riding in the car with her the other day, and I called my wife up using voice recognition on the car, and she's like, "That's fascinating. I've never seen anything like that." And I said, "Well, Mom, you're living in the past." She said to me, I don't like how your dad's really driving. Maybe I'll take driving lessons." And I said, "No, what you should do is take a computer lesson. Get rid of your car, get rid of all of that, and Uber.
Yeah.
And, but
somebody just called my mother. I've been paying her phone bill forever on her mobile phone, and she says, "Why are they turning off my phone?" And I'm like, "Nobody's turning off your." She goes, "Well, they just called me and they said that I needed to pay my bill or it's being disconnected and stuff." I'm like, "You're not even an authorized signer on this account. Ignore that."
Yeah, it's amazing, and
It's just a scam call.
I get concerned because my father doesn't have any short-term memory anymore. He's 90, going to be 91 next month.
And
actually.
he's driving.
And he's driving. We just had the doctor say no more no more driving for you, which I was happy about, because it's like frick and frack. He knows how to drive and how to get to places, but he doesn't know where he's going, and my mother can tell him where to go. You know, which is kind of like, you know, in the olden days, I mean, for a wife to tell the husband where to go, that's a good thing, you know. Doesn't let me tell you where you can go. So,
For her it was, at least.
yeah, so I get concerned with that because, like my mother said one day, he was on the phone and he's talking to someone, and he said, and he gave my mother's name and all that. My mother said, who are you talking to? And he's like, shut up. And he hangs up the phone, and she doesn't know who he talked to. 3 minutes later, he doesn't know that he made a phone call or that a phone call came in. So that's a whole different type of elder scams that go on that I think I'll do a little bit more reading on, because that's potent stuff. So
but millennials are more vulnerable. At least, you know, the elderly, because of their lack of knowledge, they're not as trusting, you know, especially if you think about the silent generation, those that are still around, you know. When you growing up in wartime, or, you know, times of fashion, rationing, or maybe they're from a foreign country and they immigrated here.
Yeah.
And they don't trust the government at all because they came from a communist country or an oppressive regime.
So in a way, ignorance is better than bliss here in this case. Ignorance is good because it protects you. We've been yakking here for about an hour or so, and I figured we should come to a conclusion. But I know you're an author, so I want you to tell us about Yes You Can, your best-selling book that you have, and Bushido Business. And I know I certainly want to promote Unlock Your Wealth Radio, because that's a whole thing we didn't talk about protecting wealth and how you can kind of multiply your life savings to make them really life savings. So tell us a little bit, how can we get the books? Where can we find you? What's your website? All of that other good stuff.
Okay, so all of my books are available on the largest bookstore in the world, Amazon.com. We're on Barnes & Noble and some of the other retailers, but they don't always have my books in stock. Yes You Can, and the latest version of Yes You Can, which was the 7 Elements for Self-Empowerment, Yes You Can 2.0, is all about creating and using my biology-based approach to success to address any challenges that you want to overcome, whether they're personal or professional. My Keys to Riches is my financial philosophy that I created to help people overcome their personal, professional challenges, to get out of debt, achieve financial freedom, and live the life of their dreams. And we do this on Unlock Your Wealth Radio, which now simulcasts my new TV show, which is unlockyourwealthtoday.com. And my next book is about how to avoid identity theft, frauds, and scams. It's called Money, Credit, and You. And you can find out the latest ways to protect yourself against identity theft, frauds, and scams from my website, moneycreditandyou.com.
That's moneycreditandyou.com, along with everything else. Like I said, a woman for all times, the Renaissance woman. I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope you had a good time. I certainly did. I'm going to go ahead.
I enjoyed myself. What a lively discussion.
Yeah. I try to keep it light. I try to keep it going. So if I could have you back on, I think it'd be great. You're a phenomenally good guest. I'm going to play another video. You don't have to listen to it if you don't want to. If you'd like to.
Oh, no, let's have at it. I want to watch the next one. Let's do it all.
All right, so let me check this one out with you.
Robocalls are off the hook these days, some 30 billion last year, and now there's a new and especially devious scam. Gail Worth was busy packing for a move when her phone rang.
He said, "This is Tony Moore. Can you hear me clearly?" And I just hung up. I didn't say another word.
Police now warning criminals are calling people at random to secretly record them.
They're extremely annoying. I'm on the National Do Not Call registry, and I guess that means nothing these days.
The calls imitate professional salespeople. Take a listen.
Hi, this is Josh from the Customer Service Department. Can you hear me okay?
Your answer, yes, is secretly recorded. Later, the scammer calls back, demanding payment, using that recording as proof you agreed to pay for goods or services. On social media, victims are speaking out, saying, "Just found an unauthorized charge on my card, and they got me." They're super slick.
We have seen these robocalls get more sophisticated and even mimic things like background noise to convince you as the recipient of the phone call that it's a real person.
To protect yourself, the Federal Trade Commission recommends never give out your personal information. And if you receive a pre-recorded sales call, or if someone asks, "Can you hear me?" just hang up.
This will continue to open up different ways for fraudsters to try and pretend that they are us and commit fraud that will eventually hit our pocketbooks.
A warning for all Americans to be wary of who's on the other end of the line. Jolene Kent, NBC News, Washington.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, that's a popular one. And the easiest way is to never say hello. It's our instinct when we pick up the phone to say hello. And they're sensing for a valid number.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why you have to just shut up. If you don't recognize the number, if it's not your friend that's already stored phone, I just wait for them. You can tell the difference if it's somebody doing that. "Hey, can you hear me? It's Bob from the Customer Service Department." Well, which one? You know, if it's a legitimate call, most people do go, "Hello, hello," because they thought maybe they missed your hello.
Sure.
And then you can tell if it's a real human being. But if it's like, "Hi, this is Bob from Customer Service. Can you hear me clearly?"
Sometimes I ask them what they can do for me. But my wife has cautioned me with that. I go, "Hi," they go, "Hello," and I go, "What can you do for me today?" And if it's a...
Well, and the problem is once you speak, they know that they have a valid phone number. And so then now they can not only call you back, but they can sell that to another person that will start robo-dialing you because they know they have a valid existing phone number. And then it's not a fax machine, and it's not a disconnected number because they actually were able to detect your voice. And so just picking it up and answering it without saying a word is what you got to do to flush out the call, because it'll hang up real quick.
Yeah, and I know if you just hang out, you can tell if someone's actually calling you. They go hello right away. They don't wait for your name, number, and potential name to appear on their screen to go ahead and then start to address you. You know, so there are more scams out there than are imaginable, folks. So protect yourself, because they are out there, and they are, in many cases, really out for blood. And you just got to know who you're talking to and what's going on. So again, I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to sign off here. I've been talking over an hour or so, and time to move on. Thank you so much. I had a wonderful time. I hope you did too. If you'd like,
it's been a pleasure. I did.
When I clean this up, I could send you a copy of it if you'd like.
I would love that. Thank you very much. And I'll put it up on Unlock Your Wealth today.
Awesome. That sounds so good. Thank you so much. Folks, we've been talking to Heather Wagenhals, and she is an expert in theft risk management in terms of all sorts of cyber issues. Again, please go ahead and write it down, Unlock Your Wealth Radio. And you can also read her books again on Amazon, Yes You Can, and Bushido Business. And I'm going to be signing off now, so I want to just end my show how I usually end my show and tell you that everything in life, folks, out there is possible. Fewer things are probable. But one thing's certain, and that's that you're alive. So go out and live your life to its fullest, because tomorrow is promised to nobody. We'll speak to you next week.